All right, hello, and thank you for joining us to hear about a topic that is on the mind of a lot of business owners, and that's how to get your business and keep your business clean and disinfected. Whether you're an essential business and you've been open, or you reopened earlier this week, or you're making preparations to reopen, we hope this information will be of benefit to you. I'm Chelsea Dyer, Manager of Engagement with the Wichita Regional Chamber of Commerce. And over the past several weeks, we've been having a lot of different discussions, some with specific industries, some with smaller groups, and some to a wider audience like today's topic. So today you'll be hearing from Troy Wayman, President and owner of Citywide of Wichita. Citywide of Wichita manages a variety of building maintenance solutions for commercial facilities, and as a national company has gained a lot of knowledge in helping businesses, especially right now. So there's a lot to be covered on this topic, and I know we won't cover it all, but we'll definitely get a lot of great information today. So without any further ado, I will turn it over to you, Troy. Thanks so much, Troy.
Thanks, Chelsea. Our mission at Citywide of Wichita is to be a valuable resource during these challenging times. The resources are offered and are intended for general information only and do not constitute any type of legal advice. If you have specific questions about any of our resources or questions about or looking for a resource we have not included today, please reach out directly to either I or Chelsea and we'll point you in the right direction. But as we get started, the way we've looked at this through the Citywide organization, and that includes over 60 different citywide locations nationwide, is to prepare, prevent, and protect. And we're going to look at those three areas today and some ways you can do to get open and stay open and get back to work. That's what we need for our economy. That's what we need for our community. And anything that the chamber can do or Citywide can do or answer any questions, we would love to do so. This is going to be a high level talk, and there's a lot of things that can be said afterwards, but we're going to cover quite a bit today. In the prepare section, situational evaluation is basically you're looking at your building almost like you've never been in it before. If it's a call center, whether it's an office, whether it's a beauty salon, whether it's a fitness facility, whatever it might be, you need to look at it as a client, customer, employee walking in that building and knowing that facility has been disinfected and cleaned properly. So people can come back tomorrow and feel safe and secure to be there, whether it is a client, employee, or a customer. And then we can build an individualized facility response plan in regards to that. That information has been put together using the latest information we get from the CDC, OSHA, ISSA, Kansas Department of Health and Environment. In every line item we address there, we can tell you the page of the document where that information came from. But you need to remember we're living in a very fluid environment today. CDC is changing almost by the hour. And then all of us need to look at an employee safety plan. How are we going to keep our employees safe and coming back to work? They may be scared, they may not be scared. Either way, we need to think that everyone coming into our office is scared and put them at ease based on the plans you put together. Then we've got to look at preventing. And the preventing is preventive electrostatic disinfection treatments, may be a choice you make. There are other choices you can do. And besides that, the electronic disinfection systems, a signage program. And what we mean by that is in a lot of restaurants or let's say beauty salons, grocery stores, just any type of stores, telling people to keep social distancing. And it could be, signage on your floors. And it can be put on carpet, it can be put on tile, it can be put on concrete. Also in the bathrooms, wash your hands regularly. Sounds pretty simple, but it is something that we need to push. And also, you're going to need hand sanitizer. And depending on where the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, the CDC, or going through phase 1, phase 2, or phase 3 by Governor Kelly, they may require us having hand sanitizers at the entrance of your facility. Maybe have them by your bathroom as people walk out of the bathroom, having them in your break room when you open your break room up. You may decide not to open your break room up at first after we get done with this. Proper cleaning procedures. The proper cleaning procedures we'll discuss as we get along through this, but you can expect your either in-house crew that is currently cleaning or your professional crews in cleaning your facilities. They're going to have to spend possibly a little more time in your facilities to get them properly clean. And back to work implementation. We've got to go back to work, but we've got to stay back to work. We don't want to do this again. Protect is site-specific supplies. What are we going to need? Hand sanitizer programs. How am I going to get my product? What kind of product am I going to have? What kind of dispenser am I going to have? Post-event two-step disinfection if you have a COVID case. Post-event back-to-work plan after you've had that case. So we're going to cover a lot of different areas. So let's get to it. Got any questions, Chelsea?
No, Troy, I think you gave us a good overview of what we're going to hear today. So thanks so much.
Well, let's get started. First, we're going to talk about electrostatic disinfection. A lot of people may not know what that exactly is. This is a brochure that explains it. The sprayer negatively charges the solution, driving the chemical to a neutral grounded surface. The charge difference means the surface actually attracts the negatively charged droplets coming out of the end of the gun, similar to the sprayers used in some automotive and commercial painting methods. That means if you have a pop can or anything that has a different type of shape to it, it will wrap around this and put a layer of product on there to kill bacteria. So versus somebody that has a fogger or other sprayer comes out and just gravity takes over. So electrostatic surrounds everything, phone receivers, computers, and the type of product being used should be safe. And you should ask the individual, if you're going to decide to do disinfection, what type of product they're using, and is it safe for your computers and your fabrics on your chairs. Chelsea, any questions?
Yeah, I think this is something that a lot of people have probably maybe heard about or seen. And so what would you recommend, to what level or what type of business should do this, and maybe how often do they need to do it if they're one that's, looking into it?
Every facility that is going to reopen or is already open should consider some form of disinfection in their facility. Electrostatic can be the best form of doing that because it gets 360 around like poles or handles on chairs or whatever it might be. It might even be the most cost effective. Or you could get wipes, disinfectant wipes, and go through your building and wipe it physically with your staff, with your employees, or whatever that might be. Both are effective. You just got to make sure you cover all your high touch point areas, and electrostatic will do that. And a combination of both is a much better application method.
Yeah, thanks, Trey. I know that's something a lot of people would probably be curious about, is if they need to do this or not.
Most definitely. Let's move on. Cleaning versus disinfecting. I'm sure everyone that is listening to this video right now is sitting at a table or a desk or some type of surface, and you look down at the surface, it looks clean, but is it disinfected? Huge difference between cleaning and disinfecting. Disinfecting, eliminates many or all pathogen microorganisms. Now, we all know that we're dealing with a virus, COVID-19. This virus mutates, can change at any given moment to a different type of mutation. And most of your disinfectants will kill 99.99% of COVID-based bacteria. But to be on the safe side, just always disinfect with an approved disinfector and ask your professional supplier, whoever you're buying your product from, what is it made of? Why is it going to work? Just simple questions like that. We can get a lot deeper in the weeds, but we're not going to do that right now. You can reach out later and ask Chelsea or myself as what might work for you there.
Yeah, Troy, I think we probably use the terms, or us folks not in your business, cleaning and disinfecting, probably interchangeably. And they're obviously two different things. So how often should a business be cleaning and how often should a business be disinfecting?
You should be cleaning constantly and disinfecting. And some people call sanitizing disinfecting. It depends on where you're at. If you're on the East Coast, West Coast, mid-central like we are, disinfecting and sanitizing can be used synonymously depending on who you're talking to. But let's take, if you are in a restaurant situation, someone comes in, sits down at a table, eats. When they're done, you need to go out and disinfect that table, all the touch points, the surface, the seat, whatever it might be. A beauty shop, you'd be cleaning the chair where the client sat and came in and out of the door, or whatever it might be. So basically, when you are moving people through a building, different people, not the same person, different people, you need to be cognizant that that area may need to be disinfected. So we clean constantly because disinfection works better on a clean surface, because you don't want to clean with a disinfectant, you want to disinfect with a disinfectant, if that makes sense at all. Now, one of the big things that everybody needs to pay attention to is if you're in an office space and you've got 20 plus employees, we want to really talk to our folks about staying in their workspace. So if you've got a surfer in your office that maybe likes to grab a cup of coffee and walk around and talk to everybody and visit and hang on their cubicles or on their computers or whatever it might be, I would discourage that type of activity until we get a better handle on how we handle this properly. So tell your surfers, put their surfboards away, stay in their area, and be mindful of those around them, because that is critical, because we're all going to have patterns. So if you actually have a COVID case within your office, it's going to be easier to isolate where that person was and disinfect that area so you're open for business the next day. The biggest thing we can't do, people, is go to work just to have to shut down again. All these steps are necessary to keep clusters from happening and spreading the COVID. Because it's not going to take a whole lot for Governor Kelly to say, hey, we're going to shut you down again. We don't want Sedgwick County to do that either. So let's be aware, and as owners and operators, it's our job to do that. Any other questions? Okay, we're moving on. Okay, just remember one thing, we're just here to help, and probably your in-house cleaning staff or your contracted cleaning crew right now, maybe your professional cleaning crew has heard of high-touch cleaning. We're going to talk about high-touch cleaning. High-touch cleaning doesn't mean you're cleaning way up here. That's not what we're talking about. we're talking about where people touch surfaces. Just a good example, if you're in an office area that has a multiple stall bathroom where you can open the door and leave it open all day, that would be a fantastic idea, because everyone in your facility on a specific floor, if you're a multi-store facility, is going to do that, okay? But that also comes into a situation where if you're a multi-story facility, you may have an elevator. Well, that's a whole different ballgame when you start talking about elevators. And in our facility response plan, we do address elevators as far as what the recommended procedure is from the CDC and guidance on that. So if you do have elevators in your building, might be a good thing to reach out to us and say, hey, what's the CDC saying? There are going to be some documents later that we'll share with you guys, that guys and gals, excuse me, at the end, that are websites that you can go to that are some great tools. But if you want to answer a little quicker, we've already done that homework. Just give us a call, and we'll reach out to you and help you do that. But high touch cleaning are all those points and places where your hands are all the time. Those are just high touch points. Doorknobs, handles of your chair. If you've got your break room open, the refrigerator doors, drinking fountains, buttons on the elevator, keyboards. If you can get a keyboard and put a plastic over the top of it to cover the keys so you can clean that off. You know, those types of steps are really critical. Or if you've got a cube farm where a lot of people sitting next to each other, but you don't have a wall, there are some cardboard and also plexiglass spacers. You're seeing them in Dillon stores. You're seeing them in restaurants where they're just a kind of a barrier to keep people from breathing and spreading whatever it might be. But it separates those, so you could actually have somebody there. But that's something you might consider too. So high touch areas, are all over the place where we are, and that's why you need to kind of visit with all your folks in your office and encourage them to stay within their own space.
So I think one thing with this, Troy, is, I think there's probably two different things happening out there for businesses, whether it's, maybe the owner and manager and employees are kind of the ones responsible for cleaning, or they're working with a cleaning company. So if they are working with a company who comes in and cleans nightly, is this a conversation they should have with them, and how would they go about that? And then also, how would they have this conversation with their employees?
Chelsea, that's a great question. I'm glad you brought that up. With your in-house staff, pretty much the time that your in-house staff is taking to clean your building every day. But if you're asking them to disinfect your building every day and hit high touch areas, depending on your square footage of your building, it could take them anywhere from a half an hour to an hour to possibly 2 hours a day to hit those high touch areas. If they're not spending more time, then they're probably not getting the job done. And also, you may have a conversation with your professional cleaning crew that they may come in and say, hey, we're going to be spending an extra hour here a day when we clean to get this place disinfected, and we're going to have to raise the rate a little bit. Be quick to support them in that, because that is cheap insurance, folks. What's it going to cost if you have a COVID case in there because you've neglected that and you're shut down? And I know everybody has a cost of doing business, and we definitely don't want to experience that again. We need to stay back at work, and to take these steps is necessary. I know it's more expense, but it's money well spent at this period of time.
Troy, I guess a little bit further with that is, if someone's professional cleaning company doesn't say something about, hey, we need to spend more time, or we need, the rates are going to go up a little bit. If they're not saying that, is that something that a business owner should maybe have that conversation with their company and say, hey, what are the steps you're doing? What are the other things we maybe need to look at doing?
Oh, most definitely, Chelsea. If they're not coming to you and explaining to you what they're doing to disinfect, then that conversation definitely needs to happen. And if you feel uncomfortable with that conversation when you're done, you might want to consider taking steps of, whatever it takes to get it done in your office, but it has to be done. And quite honestly, if you got an office building with 15 or more people in it, you might even consider, hiring extra staff. Just come in 2 or 3 hours a day and do the high touch clean throughout the day. If you don't want somebody in your building in the evening when you're gone, or something of that nature, just a part-time, what they call day porter type position. That may be helpful in your more busier environments, whether that might be a car dealership or a restaurant or a call center. So your busier areas.
And a lot of this is probably just, I think both sides we just assume and we know that this stuff is being done, but I think it's probably helpful to feel confident and to have the knowledge on both sides of what's going on. I think that goes back to the employee part that you mentioned about your employees feeling comfortable too.
Sure. The more everybody knows, the better off we all are. That's what we're doing today is we're educating. We have all got to be educated. We have to be better educated about cleaning, disinfecting, just taking care of the environment we're working in, because we spend more time at work probably sometimes than we do at home. So let's take care of that environment. Can we move forward, Chelsea? Okay. Hand sanitizer programs. You might look at suggested locations as all points of entry, outside of restrooms, outside of break rooms, lunch rooms, facility transition points going from one building to another, common use areas. People where you have a lot of crossing, you're coming into a building, you're going out of the bathroom, outside of a break room, have hand sanitizer locations where people, it's easy access, they can get that. That's an easy thing to do, and it's very healthy for the environment.
Troy, are you seeing any, I think we experienced it obviously at the beginning of this, a shortage of things like toilet paper and paper goods. And are you seeing, or do you foresee, and I think we've already seen it a little bit, but is this something that's, going to be difficult for our businesses to get their hands on right now? And, what do they do to make sure they have hand sanitizer on hand?
Make sure you're keeping a good inventory in stock, and when you need something and see that you're needing it, try to tell your vendor that you need it, 2 weeks in advance if you possibly can. Or if you have a professional cleaning crew in there, or your in-house cleaning crew, have them keep an inventory and understand what you have there, because some of this stuff is getting very, very difficult to get your hands on. Plus, there's going to be a lot of possibly some not so good sanitizer out there, that is being pirated in or being made improperly. So be careful what you're buying, know who you're buying from, and check pricing. There are some people out there, that are trying to take advantage of people. Just be cautious about that. But if you've got a current vendor you're working with, stay with them, make sure they've got the inventory, and just communicate. And you may catch yourself where, hopefully you don't, that you run out.
Yeah. And I got one other question, Troy, that probably a lot of people have encountered or thought about is there's obviously different hand sanitizers out there, different levels of alcohol that's included, I guess it is. So is there certain ones they should really be looking for? And is that kind of dependent upon the business even?
No, not really. I mean, majority of them are 70% alcohol based. Majority of them are, and that's probably what you need to look for. I think and you could look into the CDC guidelines as far as what they recommend, but the majority of what we're seeing is 70%. So if you get down to like 20 or 30%, you probably shouldn't be buying it. I've not seen any of that, but look at your labels, see if they have an EPA label on them. If they have an EPA label on them, you're good to go most of the time unless it's been forged, which can happen. So that's a great question. Just be cautious who you're buying from and communicate, and should be okay.
Great, thanks.
Okay, moving on. Facility signage program. As you can see here, there's different types of programs you can use. Social distancing, please wash your hands, sanitize hands here. Thank you for covering your face. Just basic signages. These come in 3 or 4 different sizes. There's some local sign companies that are making these also here in town. And you can check with them if you do a lot of signage and things like that with a local vendor. Ask them what they can make for you. The one thing you might want to make sure is when you peel them off, can you peel them off? And what's going to be left over, because you're going to want to change them. How durable are they? How long are they going to last? Those are some great questions to ask. These are just friendly reminders to people when they're entering your facility that you have taken the steps necessary to keep them, your employees, clients, and the general public safe and in a clean environment. That's what these are for. They're just friendly reminders. And the social distancing is something that's been recommended by Governor Kelly, CDC, OSHA, whatever name you want to use. They're encouraging that, and that just encourages people to follow that. And a lot of people are putting Scotch tape on the ground. That's fine too, if that's what you want to do. These look a little more professional. They'll be put on professionally. So just give consideration to what you want your facility to look like. Any questions, Chelsea? Okay, going on. Okay, what is a facility response plan? Facility response plan is a guide to help our clients prepare their facilities for fully functional management through the process of reopening, different phases. Citywide is following the guidance of the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA and CDC, and prevention. Our main focus is to be a helper to educate our clients on the recommended prevention methods, and how to implement them in your facility, your workplaces, and what is appropriate for their specific facility, because every facility is going to be different. Why do they need a facility response plan? It is a framework to let their employees, customers, and vendors know that they've covered their bases and are ready for business and have taken the steps to prepare, prevent, protect their employees, customers, and vendors. It's just a way of telling your customers, come on in, let's get back to work, come buy from me, trade with me. We need your business. We need people out there moving in the community.
Yeah, Troy, and I think a little bit on that, and you might cover it, that I know you had mentioned to me when we'd had a conversation before, is that you all have a really robust set of resources related to this. And I think after this, we can, or at the end of it, and I know you had mentioned reaching out to URI. I think there's, additional resources on top of what you're even sharing that would go even further in depth in this, right?
Oh, absolutely. This is just the very surface. This is so high level that we could really get in depth almost every line item here. And we've spent weeks, literally weeks, waiting for this time to open back up, as you have too, and anybody that's listening here. There have been people in the background getting ready. This has been vetted by attorneys. It's been vetted by professionals that have been in the cleaning industry, ISSA. It's all backed in legitimate operational procedures, line item by line item. So yeah, it's pretty intense. If you want to get a typical presentation to get up and running can be, depending on how long we want to talk, anywhere from 2 to 3 hours to just talk about what you need to be doing to make sure you don't have a COVID case, and if you do, what happens then. And here we're looking at suggestions for building a facility response program. We've talked about a lot of these. When you see the word or the FRP synonym, that's facility response plan. That's what we put together. Just standing operating procedures for, just how to get back to work, and your basics of putting your building in a place to where you feel comfortable, putting the key in the door every day and going to work. We have all types of supporting documents. So just reach out to the chamber. We'll keep some things available for them. I'm not going to go through each bullet point here. We can share this resource with you folks, because we can really get into the weeds here, but we've already talked about all this stuff. Okay, here are the resources we're talking about. Can you see my arrow, Chelsea, I've got out here? You see it? Guidance on preparing for the workplace for COVID-19. This is an OSHA document. It is changing daily, folks. So what you get today is going to be old tomorrow, but it helps you with different questions you might have. Don't read it in bed, you'll fall asleep. And here you've got cleaning and disinfecting your facility. This is a really nice short document that would be nice to hang up in your break area to show people what you're doing, to make them feel comfortable. We got Opening Up America again. Down here, this is a document basically made by federal government right here. Then we got a CDC document talking about the COVID-19 and 10 tips for protecting your employees. Now, I think I've got something hidden down here. If I move that, yeah. That's just an extension of this document right here. So these are some great resources for you. And these are all the resources that we put together to put together a facility response plan. Basically reading all of them and changing them probably on at least a weekly basis to stay up with all the changes that are happening. And I think that pretty well covers it. We got one page left. Just some data points. Perform routine environmental cleaning and disinfection. Routinely clean and disinfect all frequently touched surfaces in the workplace, such as workstations, keyboards, telephones, handrails, doorknobs. If surfaces are dirty, they should be cleaned using a detergent or soap and water prior to disinfection. We covered that a little bit earlier. You want to clean the surface to make the disinfectant work. The disinfectant will still work, but not as effectively. For disinfection, most common EPA-registered household disinfectants should be effective. A list of products that are EPA approved for use against COVID-19 are available here. Follow the manufacturer's instructions. Stronger isn't always better, folks. If it says mix 2 ounces per gallon, use the concentration method. Do not overfill. Follow directions on this stuff. It's meant to be used properly. Discourage workers from using other workers' phones, desks, offices. Hey, Mr. Surfer, get out of my way. Tell them go back to the desk. Or other work tools and equipment when possible. If necessary, clean and disinfect them before and after use. Provide disposable wipes with something that might be very difficult to get at times, just like the hand sanitizer. I mean, I just see them flying out of stores. And you use those on, doorknobs, keyboards, remote controls, desks, other tools like that. And they can be used by your employees during the day. To disinfect, use that product that meets EPA's criteria that we're talking about for use against, SARS-CoV-2, the cause of COVID, which is the cause of COVID-19, and are appropriate for the surface. Perform enhanced cleaning and disinfection after persons suspected, confirmed, and to have COVID-19 have been in the facility. This is very, very important. If a sick employee suspected or confirmed to have COVID-19, follow the CDC cleaning and disinfection recommendations. We want you to open the door the next day or the day after. So don't be that person. Clean and disinfect your facility.
Yeah, Troy, I think this is all great. One question I have that kind of relates to a couple of these is, in your office, you have a little more control of, making sure employees aren't, you're encouraging them to not go into each other's offices or to use their stuff or whatever it might be. But what about a business that has, employees who are out visiting clients daily, or, what would you recommend, whether it's a service technician or maybe a salesperson, whatever it might be, what would you recommend to, best protect that employee and to protect their clients? What are some processes and procedures a business might put into place or recommend to their employees?
Well, we've got a lot of people in the service industry in Wichita, and really any other market for that matter. It depends. I think a lot of that depends on if they're driving a company car or their own personal vehicle. People with their personal vehicles will probably and should be taking care of that, themselves with disinfectant wipes. Always have a little bottle of hand sanitizer in your vehicle. Put it on before you go into people's offices. And the reason being is you don't know if they have disinfected or not. Read their signs before you go in. Make sure they're accepting, vendors or customers or whatever it might be. And when you get into that particular building, don't be a surfer yourself. Don't go cruising around and touching everything. And, we really haven't talked a lot about sneezing or coughing or anything like that. But definitely make sure you're doing it into your sleeve or something like that. Protect other people. Be courteous and considerate of that environment. A lot of employers have been spraying their vehicles for their staff, whether that be police departments, delivery drivers, service technicians, whatever it might be. That would probably be more the case if you have multiple people using the same vehicle, where you maybe want to make sure that steering wheels, gear shifts, consoles, things of that nature are sprayed. There are some sprays available and just basically aerosol bottles that you can spray in your vehicle. The one thing that we didn't talk about, if you are using a spray bottle disinfectant, never spray that and use a regular cloth to wipe it with, and then keep wiping. Use paper towels, and that is part of our FRP program that we would get into. And then you've got to let it set, depending on the manufacturing recommendations on how long to have it set, so it has a kill time to kill the bacteria. If you spray it and then just wipe it right off, it hasn't done any good at all. So you got to do it properly. That's part of what we're talking about up there earlier. Follow the directions. There is a kill time that needs to be on every product put down to be a disinfectant. So you spray it, you keep going around, and just do a path and go back, and after your elongated time, whatever that might be, clean that surface, and then it should be ready for you or the next person taking the shift over, whatever it might be. Got a little long-winded there, Chelsea. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you added in some great extra points that, I think there's a lot that we're all learning through this. And, I greatly appreciate, and I know the chamber and I'm sure our members in the business community appreciate you taking time to start this, to somewhat start the conversation or to add on to what people already know, and then to also provide, the tools and the resources that people need to know and to be aware of, and to be a knowledgeable, someone knowledgeable and dedicated to our business community. And so I appreciate that. And I know you said it a couple of times, and I just want to reiterate it, that if anyone has further questions, feel free to reach out to myself or to Troy, because there is a lot more. And I think we saw it in that last question that I think any question could lead to other, opportunities to learn more and to do an even better job. And like you said, to have a business be open and stay open, because that's really important. So I appreciate your time, and I don't know if you have any final comments you want to share.
Yeah, thank you to the Chamber for giving me the opportunity to hopefully bring some education to this environment. That's all this was meant to do, is educate owners, operators, employees, whoever has the opportunity to watch this. I hope you've learned something. There's a lot of information available out there on the internet and everywhere else you may need to find it. Just make sure you're looking in the right places. If you need professional advice, feel free to reach out to somebody you trust. My main motivation behind this is let's get back to work and stay at work. Let's make this work, Wichita. We can do it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ryan. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today.
Thanks, Chelsea. Bye.
Bye.